In this video, I really want to focus on the intuition and the fact that the intuition is outside of space and time. And this shows up in so many different facets of our day-to-day life, I believe. You know, there's the idea of love at first sight, and I truly do believe in love at first sight, but I think it's a branch of the root of that I believe in knowledge at first sight. And what I mean by that is, like I said, I think our intuition is outside of space and time. And when we see somebody who, when you look at the scope of our life, has a maybe not even an impact, but is in it for more than, say, a few brief moments, there's there's something to them. You're almost drawn to them. You can sense that that person is more than just a passerby in your whole life. And I can see this so clearly with me. I'm the type of person who I really just I don't go out of my way to talk to people, to make friends. I'm completely content with myself, and yeah, but I'm also not standoffish. I'm also not mean to people. So if it naturally happens, it naturally happens. So I think I'm actually a good test subject for this theory because I don't have that many connections with that many people because I just don't go out of my way. But there's certain people, as I just traveled Asia for 6 months, and there'd be people that I would see, walking into the hostel or, out in public, and mostly hostel life though, because as I said, I'm more of the um, natural interaction. So the hostel is a pretty natural place to meet people. And I just, I'd see them and there'd just be, I'd notice them a little more than I would notice most people. And I started paying attention to that. And I started paying attention to the fact that these people ended up having significant or being a part of my life. They're not, nobody, well, actually, people change my life. Everyone we meet changes our life one way or another. But, I could just sense in some people, you know, this is more than just a greeting. You're more than just a person I see once. You're more than just a person that we get each other's names and then we never talk again. And I can feel that inside of me so deeply. And I think, as I said, I think I'm a good subject for this theory because the relationships that I do build are so few and far between, far and few between. You know what I mean? And I think it's just it helps prove that point that there's something inside us outside of space and time. It can see this person and say, it knows. Imagine if you traveled back in time when you met the first time you met your best friend or your lover or whatever, and you were who you are after 10 years of knowing them. You would be drawn towards them even though they'd be a stranger to you technically. You'd be drawn toward, you'd feel, they'd catch your eye. You notice how they walk from the back and you'd be like, why am I drawn to this person? And I think the intuition is outside of space and time, so it can tell these things. And that's why, and this is just one example, and kind of a trivial example at that. But to me, it does prove, love at first sight. Because imagine you're 20 years old and you meet your, your future husband or wife for the next 80 years. When you look at the span of your life, only this small portion was without them. And your intuition, the thing that's outside of space and time that knows how it's going to play out, that thing can see all this time spent with and all this little time spent without. And you're going to feel something if it's true. It's obviously just a theory, but if it's true, you're obviously going to feel something. Or if it's a friendship, or if it's an enemy, if it's anything, you just feel like there's something more significant about this person, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent. There's something different about this person. We can just sense it, I believe. And I think I also, that's just the first thing that came to my head because I've seen this example really in my own life time and time again where I feel something towards someone and then, maybe they were my roommate. Maybe we hung out for 2 weeks straight. And I'm talking about with my trip as of late, but so many other times too. And sometimes it takes years to see that, oh, that was that person that for some reason I thought about a lot that one time I saw them. And then 3 years later, you're coworkers or you're becoming friends or you're talking at the gym or friends of friends, whatever it may be. But I think that's more of a trivial example because it's cool if it's true. It's interesting and it's a big, but the more of the theory is true, then that means truly we need to trust our intuition because it, as Steve Jobs says, it somehow knows what we want to become already. It somehow knows, we're going to do this for a period of time, then hate it, then do this for a period of time and hate it, then wish we did this. And we can just shortcut that whole process if we trust our intuition. If it can play out infinite universes in our outside of space and time and then report back to us and say, you know, the best version of you was the one who quit this job and started traveling, then you would be wise to listen to it. You'd be wise to have faith. And also remember, it's not going to say the first 5 years after you'll be best off if you make this decision. It's going to take the whole story. It's going to take your whole life into account. It's not going to, so if the first 5 years are not not what you expected, but the next 75 are amazing, then your intuition was right. But the first 5 years you'll be, oh my, why did I trust that? Why did I listen to my intuition? But you just have to have faith. And you can't be like the picture where the guy's mining and he turns around right when he's one swing away from the gold or the diamonds. I think that's why a lot of people, they end up, they put all their eggs in one basket and then somewhere along the line they ditch the basket and then they never see it they never see it completely through. And then these are the people that destroy other people's dreams because they say, it doesn't work out in the end, this, that, and the other, and you should just stop all that dreaming, stop all that foolish nonsense, be rational, play it safe, this, that, and the other. But these people, they put all their eggs in the basket and they stopped right before the gold. And then they went into another field with no eggs that they're completely lost in, that they have no idea what they're doing at an age that they thought they'd be set up. They thought they'd be done with all this ambiguity, uncertainty. But the fact that they gave up, you can never give up. You can never give up on your intuition because then if you do, you can never talk bad about your intuition because it doesn't work on your timetable. Your intuition, you can't make an agreement with your intuition that says, okay, in 5 years or in 5 days, this has to feel better, or you're completely and utterly wrong. We have such a wide time horizon where we can't be that short-minded. We just can't, especially in the matters of the intuition. And when we trust our intuition, if it's truly outside of space and time, if it truly wants what's best for us, if it's truly trying to guide us, the most rational thing we could do is trust the intuition. Follow what it says. As I've said many times, all the greatest truths are paradoxes. And this is no exception. Rationality is the most unrational thing you can do. Logic is unrational, but trusting your intuition, your gut, your heart, the still small voice, whatever you wish to call it, this is rational because it's outside of space and time. It's divine. Your thoughts are divine. They somehow know things that a being in space and time has no business knowing. And you just have to have faith in that divine spark. And we also need to have faith in our imagination. In this day and age, or not even in this day and age, it's just when people get older, they lose their imagination. They don't follow the train of thought that comes out of, some crazy thing. But this whole thought that's coming to you is just from my imagination. It's from love of the intuition. And you know, that's like what Dante wanted us to do in the Divine Comedy. That's what Dante was guiding us towards. Loving our intuition, trusting our intuition above all else, and never losing our imagination. Just following a train of thought because it's there. And even if you've followed it 10, 20, 100 times before, because you never know which new branch will form from this root thought. You never know where it will go. Now, I've thought the intuition is outside of space and time for a while now. I've said it in the past few videos, I think, probably even in videos a while ago. But following this train of thought made me think about, that feeling I get when I meet people and how somehow these people always seem to be at least more a part of my life than they should be. They should, than in the sense of how they're just a random person I see. When I show up to a place and only one person really catches my eye and my I don't know, my energy, my feeling, I'm not, yeah, sure. Then and then somehow they become to know them deeply. They change my life in some way. I change their life in some way. To me, it's just so there's something to that. And you could also say, well, of course this happens. You're drawn to that person, so you make moves in that person's direction. And you could be right. But as I said earlier, I think I'm a great test subject for this theory because I believe in things happening naturally. I don't like to force things. I don't like really small talk in general. So whenever I maybe feel drawn to talk to a person, I'm like, what am I gonna say? You know, how's your day? Like, for me, that's just like, I'd rather kill myself. And only weird people would go up to somebody and be like, oh, like, what's the meaning of life? Go. So I'm not, I'm not always. I want deep conversations, but you often have to have a superficial relationship first. So the nature of that limits. But if someone approaches me superficially, then I'm not mean, so I will always talk and try to make it as deep as possible, as soon as possible. But yeah, I think I'm a great test subject for this theory for that reason. Because if I feel drawn to somebody, I don't go talk to them. But for some reason, they talk to me. For some reason, we end up being next to each other at a weird moment. For some reason, it just lines up. Keep seeing this person. I have a question, and this person's right next to me, and I know they know the answer, or vice versa. And to me, there's got to be something to that. I don't I don't believe in coincidences in the whole sense of it being a coincidence. I believe I don't know, I do that sometimes with words. I technically believe in coincidences, but I don't believe they're nothing. I believe there's something very deep. They should be paid attention to. They hold a lot of weight. They're not this trivial, oh, that's weird. Like, what a coincidence. It's like, yo, what a coincidence. Like, this is divine. But my whole philosophy and my whole way that I live life these days is just summing up to trusting our intuition. And my life has become infinitely better since I started trusting my intuition more. I promise you, there's so much meaning in trusting your intuition. There's so much purpose in following your heart. It's amazing. It's the way we should all be living life. To not trust your like if you don't trust your intuition, what do you trust? If you don't put faith in yourself, what are you putting faith in? And I know a lot of people believe in God, and think I believe in God in the sense that anything that created us would be considered God. But I also think whatever created us left us some of him or some of her or some of it inside of us. And that's what we should seek. That's what we can obtain. And that's how we know what's above. There's the ancient Greek saying, as above, so below. And in the philosophers of Athens, the famous painting of Socrates, painted as Leonardo da Vinci, and I think he's next to Aristotle. Yeah, and you got like Diogenes. I think Plato's in there somewhere, and then I think Socrates is going like this, and then Aristotle's like pointing down, and it's Socrates is saying as above, and Aristotle saying as below. And when you come to truly understand yourself, you come to truly understand God, whatever that is. So people may think that putting all your faith in yourself is like narcissistic, selfish, something of that nature. But that's how you come to know God. That's how you come to know your true self. That's how you come to terms with who you are, to be happy, to be at peace, to live a life true to yourself, to have purpose, to have meaning. And we can't do that without trusting our intuition, putting complete and utter faith into our intuition. And when you realize it's outside of space and time, it becomes a lot easier to trust it. Our knowledge is so limited because the future to us is uncertain. But if you could know for sure your intuition was outside of space and time, wanted the best for you, not following it would be the most foolish thing you could ever do.